On an August night in 1912, in the town of Dovetail, Kentucky, a woman named Evelyn Merrick walked down the aisle in lace the color of bone. Her eyes were glassy, her hands trembling. By morning, she was gone. Her gown lay folded at the foot of the bed, a smear of something dark on the hem. It was the 8th time in 20 years, 8 brides, all new wives to men of the Pritchard family, 8 vanishings, each one happening between the ring sliding onto a finger. And the first light of dawn, people whispered the word curse. Others whispered something far worse, tradition. The Pritchards were an old family, their land predating the Civil War. Their house, a sprawling three-story monstrosity of dark walnut and black shutters, looked more like a courthouse than a home. Locals said you could smell iron when the wind blew from their fields. Every son in the family was expected to marry young. But no one, not the sheriff, not the preacher, not even the parents of the brides, ever asked what happened to the women who vanished after their vows. The county's records were scrubbed clean. Wedding photographs vanished from church archives. It was as if the women had never existed. Before Dovetail was even a settlement, the land belonged to a man named Enoch Pritchard, a name that appears in only one surviving registry from 1803, in spidery ink beside the phrase, "came with the night." The Pritchards claimed to have built the town, but old-timers swore it was the other way around. The town grew around them, tethered to their house like a chained animal. In every family portrait from the 19th century, one detail remained constant. The sons all had the same cold, flat eyes. Eyes that never reflected light. It began, as far as anyone dared remember, in 1892. Martha Kellum married Jonah Pritchard in a small ceremony in the Presbyterian church. She was last seen walking up the Pritchard stairs in her gown, holding a candle. A servant reported hearing a sound like something breaking inside the walls. By morning, she was gone. Jonah claimed she had wandered away in the night. But the strange thing was this: Martha's parents refused to speak of her again. When asked, her father simply muttered, "It's better this way." Sheriff Amos Klein was a tall man, known for being stubborn and incorruptible, but when his own niece married into the Pritchards in 1901 and disappeared, his voice turned cold and clipped whenever her name was spoken. When pressed, he said only, "There's law, and then there's the Pritchards." Rumor was he'd been shown something in their attic, something that changed the way he walked for the rest of his life, a slow, shuffling gait, like a man moving through deep water. Visitors described the Pritchard house as unsettling before they even stepped inside. The air seemed heavy, with a faint hum, as though the walls themselves were breathing. In the main hallway, the floorboards were worn into strange, concave shapes, as if hundreds of feet had paced the same exact pattern for decades. Guests never stayed past sundown. They complained of whispering in the chimneys and a low knocking in the walls. The Pritchards, for their part, insisted it was just the settling of an old house. Each bride was given the same bedroom on the 3rd floor, overlooking the east field. The wallpaper was a faded rose pattern, peeling in places to reveal what looked like writing beneath. One maid claimed she saw a bride claw at the wall in her sleep, muttering numbers over and over, 721, 721. The next day, the woman was gone. The numbers, when written together, matched a date, July 21st, 1813, but no one in town knew what had happened that day. Dovetail's church was built with Pritchard money. The preacher, Reverend Hale, married all 8 brides to their grooms. After each disappearance, he would take to the pulpit and deliver a sermon about submission and the sanctity of family bonds. In the archives of the church, the ones the Pritchards didn't burn, there is one letter from Hale to an unknown recipient. "I have done as asked. My hands are clean, my soul, less so." By 1912, the disappearances were no longer even discussed openly. Evelyn Merrick's wedding was attended only by her parents, the groom, and 2 Pritchard cousins. No townsfolk, no friends. That night, neighbors reported seeing a lantern moving across the east field toward the woods. The next day, Evelyn was gone. Her parents moved away within a week, leaving their farmhouse to rot. In 1924, a roofer repairing the Pritchard attic found a ledger. The book listed names, every bride's name, alongside strange phrases: tithe paid, well fed, cycle unbroken. When the roofer tried to turn the book over to the county clerk, he was found drowned in the creek 2 days later. The ledger vanished. A traveling journalist named Henry Claiborne came to Dovetail in 1931. He charted the disappearances and noticed they always happened on the night of a new moon. He theorized that the brides were taken to a nearby cave system, but when he attempted to explore them, he never returned. His camera was found just inside the cave mouth. The last photo showed the inside of a narrow tunnel, and in the distance, a pale hand pressed against the rock. No crops grew in the east field. It was always perfectly flat, bare dirt, like something buried there wouldn't allow roots to take hold. Late at night, some claimed to see movement beneath the soil, as though something large was shifting just under the surface. Dogs would refuse to walk across it. Horses would panic when led near. Each generation, the Pritchard sons married younger. By the 1930s, they were taking brides barely out of girlhood. The younger they wed, the more gaunt the grooms became afterward, as if whatever the brides were taken for left its mark. One night, an elderly woman in the town confessed to her granddaughter what she had seen as a girl. A wedding night where the bride was taken from her bed by the groom and two older women. They led her barefoot into the east field where a circle of stones marked a pit. The bride did not scream, she only whispered, "I'm ready." In 1941, a storm unearthed part of the east field. Beneath the mud was a circular shaft lined with ancient stones. At the bottom, workers saw what looked like carvings, crude figures of women, faceless with their hands bound. The county filled it back in within days. The newspapers never mentioned it. A former Pritchard servant, dying of pneumonia, claimed the family had made a bargain in 1813. A sickness had swept through their children, killing nearly all. A woman, not quite human, came from the woods and offered them survival. But survival came at a cost. On the wedding night of every Pritchard son, the bride must be given to the earth beneath the east field. The servant said the earth in the field was alive, that it was not dirt but something's flesh, that the brides were fed to it, and in return the Pritchards thrived, their land fertile, their bloodline unbroken, their power absolute. She said you could hear it breathing at night if you lay your ear to the ground. In 1947, the last known Pritchard wedding took place. The bride, Lillian Voss, was never found. But unlike the others, her disappearance sparked an investigation by outsiders, men from the state who were not afraid of the family. They dug in the east field for 3 days before being ordered to stop. One of those men years later told his son what he saw. Tunnels, dozens of them leading downward, and in those tunnels human remains, fused with something else, bones wrapped in roots, faces stretched into the walls. And deeper still, something vast, coiled and sleeping. The Pritchard estate burned to the ground in 1950. The cause was never determined. The east field is still bare to this day. On certain nights, locals say you can see lanterns moving across it, heading toward the pit. And if you really listen, you can hear a slow, wet exhale beneath your feet. Some believe the Pritchards are gone, but others know better. The bargain was never broken. It only waits for the next wedding night.